Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good evening to all. Thank you for joining this session. So let me start sharing my screen. Screen two. Okay. Just 1 second, guys. Okay. All right. So just to check, can you guys see the screen that I'm sharing right now? You should be seeing ENT441 CFD. Can anyone comment, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Okay, thank you. So I think let's start our first session of the semester. Again, I thank you everyone for joining on time. We should be having roughly about 30 students. Basically, they are 30 students who registered for this course. Unfortunately, I'm seeing 4, 8, 12. Well, we have less than 20 students in this session, so I'm not sure why. I think everyone should be aware of the changes on the timetable. So I hope you're aware that instead of Monday, our session has been changed to today for synchronous session from 4:30 until 6:30 in the evening. Okay, so hopefully you are all aware of that. Okay, I think we can start the session. Okay. So this is ENT441 Computational Fluid Dynamics for semester 2 session 2020-2021, and I will be your lecturer for this semester. For those who doesn't know me, my name is Anas. I am a senior lecturer with the Mechanical Engineering program at FTKM. My office room is stated over here, room 35, which is on the top floor. Basically, if you know where the thermodynamics lab is, basically my office is just by taking the stairs in front of thermo lab and then go straight to the top floor. So you'll see my office in front of the toilet, unfortunately. Okay. As for the office hours, it is by appointment. So if you got any questions, if you want to see me for discussion, please drop me an email. So this is my email. All right. So this semester, this course will be assisted by our teaching engineer, which is Mr. Muhammad Asrul Saad. His office is located at Mechanical Design Lab 1, which is the computer lab. So if you got any questions related to lab, for example, or any matters related to CFD, if it basically concerns Mr. Asrul, you can just go and see him. Just 1 second, I'm going to pause the resume. Okay, if you got any questions, you can just, well, basically stop me at any time if you got any questions to ask. Okay, should be okay now. All right. So that's for our teaching engineer. Okay, so let's start with our course. Basically, I just want to introduce what our course is about. So nothing heavy for this session, for the first session. Just an introduction to our course, the details about assessment, and so on and so forth. All right. So about our course over here. So this is the latest timetable from the portal that has been published, I think 2 days ago. I hope you guys are looking at the same timetable as I am. But I've been told that currently they are still revising the timetable, so there might be some changes. So I'm not sure whether our course or our time slot will be affected by the changes that they are looking at right now. So hopefully not. So assuming this is the timetable that we're going to use for the rest of the semester. So if you can see over here, our synchronous session has been designed or designated to be on Wednesday, today at 4:30 until 6:30 in the evening. So I think this is quite a challenge for everyone, myself included, because I think 4:30 in the evening is basically not the ideal time for a lecture, but we do the best that we can with the given slots. And then we have two sessions allocated for us for lab or tutorial. So the first one is on Monday from 11 until 1 o'clock, and the second one is Thursday from 8 in the morning and until 10 o'clock. As for the lab groups, I haven't finalized the group yet, so I think I'll keep you guys posted regarding the session. I will go into details about the labs soon, so don't worry about it. Okay. Okay, next. All right. So I think before we go further, I think let's have a quick discussion regarding the timetable during the month of Ramadan. So as you can see, the timetable allocated for us for the synchronous session from 4:30 until 6:30, well, it's not ideal for the Muslim, myself included, because I need to go home and prepare and help my wife prepare the meal for the basically berbuka. Okay, so aside from that, I think we have no problem for the asynchronous. Basically, you can just watch the video or additional materials that will be asked of you during your own time. I think we don't have problem with this session here for the asynchronous. But for the synchronous session, the session that we are having right now, I just want to ask whether it is possible for us to move our lecture a bit early. For example, 3 o'clock if possible. So can I get feedback from students on this matter? Anyone? So okay, not everyone is using the mic. So but I can see from the chat box. So Tiva Kumar, thank you. Farhan also replied, thank you. Amir, how about the rest? Because we have 30 students, I need to get consent or approval from all of you before we can move our lecture from 3 o'clock, from 4:30 to 3 o'clock. Because if we start at 3 o'clock, we can finish hopefully by 5, so that everyone can basically make a preparation for berbuka. I cannot check to everyone. Need to allow in member privilege setting. Okay, I'm not sure what is meant by that. I think you can just basically type your message over there and everyone can see it. And then you can select 2 at the bottom of the chat box, whether you want to message to private person or to everyone. I don't think it's not my setting that is you're having problem with. Okay. Anyone? Yes.
Anything in the chat.
Come again?
I cannot write anything on the chat. I don't know why, but I just write. It's okay for me, doctor, but I cannot send it to you.
You cannot send it to me. Can you choose 2 from at the bottom of the chat box?
Please select. Just send it to you.
There is a 2, the drop down menu at the bottom. Please select, so you can select whether you want to send the text to everyone or specific person.
Okay.
Other than that, there is not much settings. It happens when someone update their laptop bios. Now, thank you. I think that's a very, very technical answers. Thank you. Whoever S181111073 is. Okay. Okay, so far the majority of you are saying okay, but I need consent from everyone. So I will basically put a survey on our Google Classroom. Hopefully you guys can fill it up. Hopefully by tomorrow we can finalize everything and make it official, so to make sure that there is no clash with your other courses. Okay, so let's see. I think let's just stick to that for the month of Ramadan for 4 weeks. And in case, for example, after the month of Ramadan, after the break, you guys think it's okay to continue 3 o'clock, I think that would be best for everyone if you guys want to stick to that schedule. Otherwise, we can always go back to 4:30. Okay, so thank you guys for those who give their feedback, but I will put a survey just to make a confirmation about this. So tentatively, if I can just make some notes over here. So basically, roughly, we are going to start from 3 o'clock over here until 5. Okay, so thank you guys for your understanding. Okay, so next, let's start with the course description or synopsis. I think I'm going to give you about 30 seconds just so that you can read the introductory or this description about this course. Okay, so there's not much of the description, nothing to elaborate, but if I can just highlight what the main content or what we are going to cover for this course with the following highlighted content. So first is about the in-depth introductory fundamental or foundational technical knowledge in CFD. So it's not just about the application, but we are going to look what is basically behind the GUI or graphical user interface that you use for NCIS, for example. How do you get the contour plot, for example? Okay, so we're going to look into that. And then we will start with the basic fluid dynamics physics. Basically, how do you arrive? I think by now you are aware fluid equations are governed by the Navier-Stokes equations because the syllabus has covered this in fluid 1 and also fluid 2. So we are going to look basically how we derive that, how we get to Navier-Stokes equation. So that's about the basic fluid dynamics physics. And then to do that, we also need to look at the basic partial differential equation. So we cannot get to Navier-Stokes equation or Euler equations without looking at the PDE, the partial differential equations. This, I'm sure, has been covered in your calculus or maths courses. So there will be not much of description of how we do integration, for example, or derivation. Just straight ahead, okay, this is the derivation of the equation and this is how we get that. So instead of looking at how sign integration will give the output of blah, blah, blah. So we'll go straight to the output of the integration or the differential equation. And then we are going to look at how this PDE is related to discretization method. Basically, for this course, we are going to look at the finite difference. It says here finite difference and finite volume method, but I think we are going to focus first on the finite difference method, FDM, and if time allows it, we are going to touch a bit about the final volume. But the main content of the discretization method for our course this semester will be in terms of the FDM, okay, finite difference method. Then basically we are going to look at how the Navier-Stokes equation, which was covered in fluid 1 and fluid 2, can be applied to the software, basically the NCIS. We're going to use NCIS later. Basically, instead of just using NCIS, but hopefully at the end of this course, we understand, okay, how that particular equations or how basically NCIS function, what is behind the GUI. I think that's the main target, hopefully, that it can be achieved this semester. Basically over the semesters, when I look at the CFD project for FYP or IDP, I look at the output from students, and when I asked certain questions related to the CFD, basically how the result was achieved, how the boundaries were set up. Usually they are having trouble to explain. Basically, they can explain, okay, this is the result that I get. For example, it shows velocity deficit or something. But when I ask further, they cannot basically explain what is behind or how that the beautiful contour that you usually see for CFD output was achieved. So they cannot answer that. So basically, in this course, we are going to look into details, basically how the Navier-Stokes equations are derived and be applied to solve CFD problems. So that's the aim of this course. And we are not going to discuss, well, basic grid generation will be discussed, yes, and we'll introduce turbulence modeling. Basically, this will be covered part of the CO3, which will be explained later. Okay, so any questions from you guys about the course? Okay, so let's continue. All right, so as usual, for every courses that you took every semester, there will be course outcome, which is the course objective, basically what is expected of students at the end of the course, which basically all assessment is mapped or is planned to basically achieve the following statement or outcomes. Okay, so the first outcome, CO, we call it CO. The first one is the ability to analyze and apply basic fluid dynamic related partial differential equations. So I just call it PDE for short. So the good news is you have covered this pretty much in fluid 2. So what we are going to do here is basically a quick revision because we need these fundamentals in order for us to proceed to CO2 and CO3. So the good news, as I said, CO1 basically pretty much similar to what we covered or what you covered in fluid dynamics 2. Okay, so the first one is about analyze and apply basic fluid dynamics related PDE. The second one is ability to formulate and apply basic finite difference or finite volume method for fluid dynamics related partial differential equations. So this is related to discretization method that I mentioned. Basically, we know, I think, majority of the students who are doing FYP and who has taken, who's doing FYP related to simulation or CFD, are quite familiar with meshing or grid generation. So basically, when we have a grid, how does the boundary or the inlet that we set, the values that we set, is applied to the grid, to the nodes? So that is basically related to the discretization method in terms of finite difference method, FDM, or the finite volume method, FVM. So we are going to look at that. So that's for CO2. As you can see, the level of complexity is 6.6, which is basically it involves a higher order of thinking, or you have to create something for in exam, test, or case study. And the last one is the ability to solve fluid dynamics related problems by using computational tools. So this is lab basically. If you can see over here, the level of complexity is psychomotor, meaning that it is lab based. So CO3 is dedicated to the use of NCs. Okay, so if I can summarize, we have 3 COs. The first one is basically ability of the students to analyze and apply PDE to basic fluid dynamics equation, because we need that knowledge in order for us to move to CO2, which is to apply or to look at the derivation of the discretization method. In this particular case, FDM or FVM. As I said, we are going to focus primarily finite difference method. Okay, then the last one, basically we are going to look at the ability of the students to use CFD tools, in this case NCs, since it is available in our lab. All right, so any questions so far from students? Anyone? Everything okay? All right. Okay. Okay, so let's proceed. Okay, so this is the plan for this semester. I would like to emphasize over here, this is tentative or plan teaching or the teaching plan. Um, it is dynamic, it is not fixed, and it may change as the semester goes. So I hope students understand this because we receive comments from students, from the MVP, saying that the lecturers basically did not follow the teaching plan. As I said, this is again a plan or still a tentative. It is a guideline so that students know what is being covered, what chapters is being covered. But in terms of the assessment, in terms of the tutorials, it is dynamic. It may be changed. Okay, so I emphasize again over here, and do not be worried because if there is any changes, for example, in terms of the quizzes, assignment, I will notify students at least 1 or 2 weeks before so that you have ample time to prepare. Okay, I will not say suddenly, okay, we have um, assignment that is due week 6, suddenly I change the date to week 5. I will not do that. Okay, but there will be impromptu quizzes. Okay, I think that's normal, formative quizzes. So even though, for example, if I go week by week, for the first 2 weeks, we are going to look at, of course, the introduction of to CFD and then the black box concept. So the black box basically just introductory concept to basically to highlight to students what is happening behind the GUI or the software. So behind those pretty pictures that you see, the CFD output, what is really happening behind that? So that's the black box concepts. So and then from week 3 to 5, we are going to start with the intro to CFD tools, which is basically a theory. It's not a theory, basically introduction to what is CFD tools, how do you use CFD tools, what are the criteria or what are the important parameters, variables that you need to understand or you need to know in order to set up a good model. So hopefully we can see mesh generation, model condition, solution analysis, and validation. Next, we are going to continue with week 7 until 8 is the basic equations of fluid dynamics. This is again actually CO1, which is related to fluid dynamics 2. So it's just a recap. So we are going to go quickly, basically what was covered in fluid 2, and we're going to recap that again. So this is week 7 until 8. Then after that, from week 9 until 12, is the finite difference method. I think that's the main, one of the main highlight or topics for our course. Then at the end of the semester, we have finite volume method. Again, I put here for 2 weeks, but this is not the main focus of our course. We will cover if time permits, but if not, okay, we'll just cover FTM. And then turbulence. Turbulence basically is part of the intro to CFD. Okay, so it's just split into the second part. So this is the intro to turbulence. Okay, so as for the assessment, we'll have tutorial. Okay, again, this is week 5, but again, it might be changed to a earlier or maybe later week depending on where we are on the syllabus. And then I think the first one, it's not the assessment, but basically the first thing that we have to do early in the semester is the lab. So as you can see over here, lab is scheduled for 2 weeks, week 3 and also week 4. So this is the same lab. Okay. So this is where you need to use the NCIS CFD tools to simulate, basically do some simulation. And the assessment is in terms of report and also lab test. Okay, I will explain later in terms of the assessment in details. Excuse me. Then we have quiz, which is planned on week 8. Again, tentative. It might be earlier. I will tell it in advance. but impromptu quizzes, of course, will not be announced. So hopefully you all will be attending the session, lectures, because the quizzes, the impromptu quizzes might be given during the session. Okay. And then we have tutorial 2, assignment, lab 2 is scheduled on week 10. Okay. And then of course another quizzes, assignments, tutorials. These are all again tentative, but hopefully we can get some idea of how the semester goes. Okay. Oh, before I forgot, so we have midterm break during week 6. This is I think Hari Raya. Okay. And if you see over here, the test might be conducted during roughly about week 8 or 9. But again, depending on the syllabus, if we can finish or we can cover some of the syllabus earlier, we can finish the syllabus earlier, then the test might be basically bring forwards a bit earlier than week 8 or week 9 as planned over here. But again, don't worry, I will at least give you early notice 1 or 2 weeks before the test so that you guys can prepare for that. Okay. Any questions about the plan? Okay, no questions. So far, so good. All right. So as you can see over here, we have 2 labs, and each of the lab basically there are 2 hours. Sorry, it's not 2 hours, 4 hours each. Sorry, it's not 4 hours each. Basically, we have 2 labs. Excuse me. And then for 1 lab, we have to cover for 2 weeks. So 2 hours over here, another hour on the other week. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So this is from the previous semester, the teaching plan. So I just want to highlight what is the difference. So this should be flipped to. So the difference in terms of our plan and the other and the previous semester plan was that for the previous semester, the lab was planned slightly later in week 5. But I decided to bring forward the lab. So for example, this is in week 9. I decided to bring forward the lab a bit earlier because of the needs of some students who are doing simulation work for FYP with the hope that our lab as well as the topics over here, if you notice, it covers straight away the FDM, or sorry, it's not FDM, the basic questions of fluid dynamics in the second week. Okay, but ours, I think we covered this after the mid-semester break. Excuse me. Okay, so with the hope that some of the knowledge that is covered in this course can be beneficial and helpful to students who are taking FYP. Okay, it doesn't matter FYP1 or FYP2. Hopefully they learn something from the introduction to CFD that we're going to do, and also the lab, so that it can help their FYP work. Okay, so I think that's the aim here. Okay. Okay. All right. So, okay. So basically, just to recap again, the changes in terms of the teaching plan, based on the survey that I did a few weeks ago, I think most, but again, there were only 14 respondents. So we have 30 students who registered for this course. So I think this is not reflective of everyone. But those who responded, 100% of all of them basically are taking FYP this semester. And out of those 14s, basically half of them will be using ANSYS or simulation tools for their work, for the FYP work. And for this question, basically, I think majority of them basically needs help in terms of the simulation parts. I think that's the reason why I decided to move the basically CO3, yeah, CO3, where the introduction to CFD, how the CFD works basically, to earlier in the semester instead of later in the semester. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, so to recap about our syllabus or teaching plan in a simple diagram, the first part will cover about ANSYS, which is the computational tools that we're going to use. So basically, we are going to learn basically how the simulation can be run using ANSYS in the lab. Okay, that's for the first lab. The second lab will be quite similar. Okay, and class theory. This is the theory part for, I think, for the first 5 weeks of the semester, just before the break. Hopefully we can cover all the theories involved, but basically how to set up the boundary condition, what does boundary conditions means, the inlet boundary, what does it mean basically. So all that will be covered in the first part of the syllabus. Okay, so that falls under the computational tools, which is ANSYS. The second part is basically the partial differential equations. Basically, as I said, this is from your Fluid 2 course. So basically, you should rejoice or you should be happy because it's just a recap of what you have learned. So we might speed up a bit for this topic because we have covered in Fluid 2. So this is the second part. And the next part is I think one of the core content of this course, which is the discretization method, FDM. Okay, so we have a grid, for example, but how does the information is calculated or transferred from one node to another node? We're going to look on the surface at first, and then go into detail in terms of the example problems. And finally, if we have time, as I said, hopefully we have time to cover both FDM or it's not all, and FVM, finite volume method. Okay, all right. Okay, any questions? Please stop me at any time. All right. So again, in essence, to recap what CFD is what you have learned in Fluid 1 and Fluid 2, combined together, plus a bit of lab, which is the need to use the computational tools in terms of the ANSYS simulation. So I think that's the essence of CFD. Okay. So in general, the learning outcomes, basically I try to summarize what is expected by the end of the course. First, hopefully you understand how to apply FDM or FVM to solve simple flow problems. It's not just a method. It is a method that is basically is mathematical equations, mathematical method that can be used to solve fluid problems. Okay, it's not just a method that we learn on paper and then suddenly you forgot about it. It's a useful knowledge for you to have this. And then second one is to choose an adequate computational method to solve a fluid mechanics problem because both FDM and FVM, they are different in nature, different in characteristic, and each of these, they have their own advantages and disadvantages. Okay. And then the third one, to evaluate the quality of numerical solution to a fluid mechanics problem. I think this is the main problem encountered by students as well as the lecturers. Majority of the students who are doing FYP work related to simulations, they can produce something when using ANSYS basically or using any CFD tools. When you put some values as at the inlet, for example, and you define the boundary at the outlet, you will get some value in between. Okay, but the question is, how do you know? How do you evaluate the values that you obtained? Basically, the pretty pictures or the nice colored contour that you managed to produce. How do you verify? How do you know the validity of the equation? It's not equation, the output. So I think that's the problem that is faced by students. Anyone can produce a CFD output, but not anyone can basically understand or evaluate whether the output or the pictures that you produce at the end is valid. I think that's the key here. And then next, we want to recommend the use of a computational method or a theoretical approach for fluid mechanics problem. So basically, as I said, pretty much anyone can use CFD tools, let's say in this case NSYS, but aside from tools or the CFD tools, we can also basically learn and apply the discretization method, for example, the finite difference method, how it can be used to apply or to understand the result that we get. So if you know both theory as well as the tools, if you have that basically hand in hand, it will be very, very useful for students when they enter their workplace. If you are doing CFD, it will be very, very useful. It will be very appreciated skills to recommend something that is valid or not valid from the CFD output. Okay, and finally, to understand scientific publications in the area of CFD. So again, this is you can relate this to CFD. Those who are doing CFD for their FYP, for the first SEM, most of you guys will be doing literature review. When your supervisor asks you to read something from article in research journal publication, for example, I'm pretty sure you have no idea at first. So hopefully from this course, you'll get some idea basically what does this values means. Basically, if you got a nice contour, a nice plot, but you do not understand the origin of those contour, I think it will be it's not useless, but it will be very hard for you to understand the rest of the publication, because the result is one thing, but if the setup of the work, the setup of the CFD work is not of high quality or is not accurate, then the end result will be useless. Okay, all right. So let's take a 5 minutes break, and then we are going to continue. Okay, so in the meantime, if you got questions, please ask. Okay. Okay. So thank you for those who has given their response. So let's say from this response, basically we all agree to have our lecture, a synchronous lecture on Wednesday from 3 to 5 during Ramadan. So after that, after the 4 weeks of Ramadan finish, if we decided to continue, I think let's discuss that later. One more thing is regarding, yes, from 3 to 5. Okay, so we have 2 hours of synchronous, but I was thinking, because during the month of Ramadan, I think to talk for 1.5 or 2 hours straight is quite challenging. So we might have a shorter lecture from time to time. So let's say from 3 maybe through until 4:30 or 4:15. So the remaining time for the lecture will be converted to the asynchronous session. I hope that's okay with you guys, because either way, the amount of or the duration of the lecture will be similar. So basically, if we have 30 minutes shorter for the synchronous session, then the 30 minutes period will be transferred to the asynchronous video or whatever activities that is planned for that particular week. Okay, so I hope that's okay with you guys. All right, thank you for the response. So let's continue. Okay. Okay. All right. So next, let's go to the learning resources and text. These are the list of textbooks that I think would be very, very beneficial for you guys to have go through or pass through this course. The first one that is highlighted over here in green is from Anderson, Computational Fluid Dynamics, The Basics with Application, first edition, McGraw-Hill. So this is the picture of the textbooks, the front page. This is the main textbook that will be used for this course. The remaining textbook, basically, I hope you understand that the content of this syllabus is not just taken from the single textbook. It is basically a mix and match from different resources, which is highlighted over here. Okay, so please do not depend on just one textbook. I think you guys are quite familiar with the lectures over the years. So in my case, or in this case for CFD ENT441, our contents will be a mix of everything from several sources, okay, which are listed over here. All right. Other resources that will be useful to you guys, aside from the main textbook, is the fluid mechanics textbook, which I think everyone have a copy of from your fluid 1 and fluid 2 courses. Okay, so these two will be the main textbooks basically that you can refer to for our study. Again, normally I highlight this every semester. Please do not depend just on the textbook or the materials given in the class or during the lectures. For example, the lecture notes or the tutorial questions, they are just basically highlights or summary of what is being covered or what is being basically written in the textbook or the resources, other resources. So when it is a summary, meaning that the details are not there because it's impossible to cover all detailed materials, the technical knowledge, theory, and everything in 2 hours a lecture. So what I have on my slides or whatever that I'm teaching on that particular session in the lecture or tutorial is just a summary or the highlights of the importance or the key section that we are looking at from the textbook. So always be mindful of that, and I have taken some basically I've taken the liberty to list out basically quite a lot of links or external sources that I think is quite useful for you guys. It's a mix of everything. Sometimes you're looking at the link regarding FVM, FDM, FEA. Sometimes you're looking at the CFD, the NCIS punya, the NCIS description. So it's a mix of everything. So I hope you guys will basically put some effort to look for the textbook. That's one thing, and also have time to go through the materials covered there or the materials shared in the link. Please note that the materials that I share over here in this link or in this post, it is dynamic, meaning that I will update the content from time to time. Okay, so it doesn't mean that once I've posted, that's the final links or the final materials that you should cover. No, I always find something new or something interesting that I think is related to our course that I want to share, but maybe it's the coverage or it's too much or maybe it's too advanced, for example, but it's good for your knowledge, then I will share in this post. Okay, all right. So before we go to the details of the assessment, I'm going to just give me 1 second. Okay. If you got any question, anything else? Okay. All right. So now let's go to assessment and grading. Okay, for normal semester, let's focus for the left part first. Previously, I think this is quite normal for all courses during the normal semester. Final examination consists of 60% of your grades, which is a lot. And then you'll have the continual assessment, tests, quizzes, assignment, labs, and other roughly constitute about 40% of it. So 100%, but the large chunk of your grade is basically located or basically is determined by your how you do or how you did during the final examination. It's 60%. Okay, so I think this is quite normal for quizzes. Usually we have 2 or 3 quizzes along the semester, assignments as well, and labs. Okay, okay. Now this is for the normal semester, but for this semester, okay, again this is face to face. You'll have 60%, 40% coursework. But for this semester, we call it CAA. CAA refers to continual alternative assessment. So for the CAA for this semester, I have proposed to the program to have the following. So, of course, continual alternative assessment refers to 100% coursework, okay, because this is an online class. you will have 2 tests, and each test will constitute 20% of your grade. So total of your test, 2 tests, will be 40%. And the remaining percentage will be in terms of case study, 20%. So basically, if you see the percentage or the weightage of the case study is quite high, so meaning that the case study is as important as your test. So I will explain later what your case study is and what you should do. Okay, it's not just a normal assignment, because the 20% marks is high as your test. Okay, so you should be basically, you should focus for the case study, basically, to improve your grades. And then you have quizzes, 8%, assignment, 8%, and then your lab is 24%. So if you can see over here, the large chunk of your grade is basically, well, I can say it's evenly distributed between the test, case study, as well as your lab. So your lab, 2 labs, 24%, including the lab test. Okay, so, and as I said before, for the lab session, I would like to conduct the lab session face-to-face. I've informed this in the WhatsApp group as well as in our Google Classroom. Okay, so the reason why the labs needs to be conducted face-to-face is because of the following, which I will explain in the next few slides. Okay, all right. Okay, so this is the plan assessment. Again, this is planned. Please don't take too much of it. But what you need to understand or to know is in terms of the weightage over here. Test 20%, test 1, test 2, 20%. You have quiz, assignment 8% each, and then lab 20%, lab test 4%, case study 20%. Don't focus too much here because this is flexible. It can be basically updated from time to time. Okay, I think this is some notes. I think this is for more to for myself instead of for you. Basically, I think it's just a reminder. Students taking CAA cannot take additional semester or the semester tambahan in Malay, but semester tambahan, because the CAA is 100% coursework. Because during semester tambahan, usually what students, what the university allow is you take the grades or the percentage of your coursework, and then you top up with the final to improve your grades. But since our course is 100% coursework, so it's not possible to do semester tambahan. Unless you are a 4th year students, you need to do additional semester in order to graduate. Special permissions are needed. I think please consult your RPS on this matter. I think this is more toward for myself instead of for students, okay? Regarding the additional semester. Sulam, all right. I think you are all aware what Sulam is by now. But the good thing is I've been informed by the PR, program chairperson, I think yesterday. So our course is no longer part of Sulam. I think the only course involved with Sulam is 461 renewable energy. So yeah, congratulations for those choosing this course. Okay, I think so. Sulam is not related to us, so don't worry about it anymore. Okay, then I would like to touch about the academic dishonesty or plagiarism, which I think has been highlighted since, well, every time that I start this semester, I will always cover this. And since most of you guys, I had the pleasure of teaching before, so you guys should understand my my view in terms of plagiarism or academic dishonesty. What is plagiarism? I think by now everyone should understand. Basically, it means taking or using another person's idea or manner, or expressing them and passing them as your own, okay, and without giving appropriate acknowledgement. Okay, so I think basically you take someone's idea and then you give that as your own work. So basically, in the simple words, for assignment, for quiz, for test, you copy and paste your friend's answer or from the internet, and then you write down as your own, then that is plagiarism. Okay, so this is something that is very, very serious. In academic, plagiarism is the most serious crime that you can commit. Okay, so I've laid out the summary. Basically, sharing of ideas on the homework is encouraged, meaning that you discuss with your friends. That's okay. But the submission needs to be done individually. So, for example, you're discussing with your friends in terms of the lab or the case study that you need to do, how it needs to be done, for example, what are the topics that they are choosing, for example. You can discuss about the boundaries that they are using. Maybe you can use the same boundary, but the work needs to be done by yourself. Okay? And you are responsible for making yourself aware of and understanding the policies and regulations of UNIMAP's academic guidebook pertain to academic honesty. These policies include cheating, fabrication, falsification, forgery, multiple submissions, plagiarism, complicity, and computer misuse. Okay? The policies can be found here. I have taken the liberty to attach or to give the link so that no students can say, I have no idea what plagiarism policies for UNIMAPs are. Okay, so you can have a look at this website. Okay, so this is a snapshot of the academic guidelines regarding plagiarism. Unfortunately, I cannot find the translation for English. So for the international student, I think from the record, we have two international students, which is Badugash as well as Ashikul Islam. Ashikul and also Badugash, I hope you understand Bahasa by now after 4 years here. Respond, please. Badugash, are you here? A little bit, okay. So basically, don't copy and paste from internet or from your friends.
Trial version.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Okay, so next, okay, so these are some of the examples of academic dishonesty that I've encountered or the lecturers encountered over the years. First one is by using seniors or past years answer scheme for report or assignment. I would like to make myself clear. I will not tolerate plagiarism. I will not tolerate submission of previous year's answers. For example, what happened last time when I was teaching another class, I updated the lab questions. I basically changed or modified the questions for that particular year, and somehow I think it's not major, but minority of the students, I think 10-15 students, they did not even read the questions and they just copy and paste or give the answers from your seniors from past years without even looking at the latest answers or questions, sorry. So I will not tolerate plagiarism. That's one thing that you should understand. Okay, so please make sure that your answers is yours, not from previous years or your seniors. I will make sure I update all the lab questions, all the assignment questions, as well as the test question. It will not be the same. So you should understand that. Then secondly, submitting assessment that was copied and pasted. Again, this is related to the first one. You cannot copy and paste from friends, internet, or check. Okay, or this has been quite popular among students for the last couple of months or semesters, especially during PKP. It has caught our attention, not just for the program, but also the school, the faculty, the university, as well as the Ministry of Higher Education. Okay, there was a letter percolating, basically given to all universities regarding this issue. Check, specifically, they mentioned check and other websites or tools used by students during the online assessment. Okay, so now I would like to basically tell you in advance, yes, you may post the question anonymously. Okay, we might know, okay, I say we might not know who the students are, basically because you can just put James or Edward for your account name, but your answer will be the same as the check that was given. So if caught, okay, I will report straight away the students to the school, to the faculty first, so that the students will face disciplinary action. Okay, I will not just give 0, but I will make sure that students who cheated will get penalized, and will face disciplinary action because you are in 4th year. In 1st year or 2nd year, we might be lenient because they are still learning. But 4th year, I expect more from students. You are more matured, you understand the rules and regulations. Basically, you reap what you sow. Okay, so if you want an easy way, go ahead. But if you get caught, you will face the repercussions. Okay, I hope I make myself clear. If any students submitted the assessment to me, doesn't matter test, lab, or anything. If I see similarity with friends or from the internet or from chat, you will not just get 0, but you will also be sent to the school, to the faculty, and to the university so that you face the penalty, disciplinary action. Hopefully, I'm making myself clear over here. All right. And as well of discussion during test. I think this is quite prevalent. So hopefully, this semester I can devise the test question or the test procedure so that no discussion can be held during the test. Maybe over the semesters, I think you also know several lecturers has tried to have several sets of questions, or maybe you submitted each questions before you can submit the next question. So I will try my best to make sure that I can prevent or we can prevent this from happening. Okay. Any comments regarding this issue, academic dishonesty from students? Do you guys agree with what I just said? No? Yes? No response? Thank you, Larry. Thank you for your response. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so why should you care about plagiarism and everything else about the academic dishonesty? Okay, first, for our first what should I call it? I will explain later about the attendance, how the attendance will be taken. So this is a snapshot of our first attendance, where students need to verify that they have read the academic guidelines from UniMap. I've given the link over here. You also need to basically it's not verify. You need to how should I say? You need to understand that I have explained in detail, and you agree that you will face repercussions if you were caught cheating. So you have to choose that options, and you also need to understand that university may take disciplinary action. Okay, so meaning that I've explained everything, and you know the repercussions, and you sign it off, and you will not do it basically. Okay, and why is it relevant? So this is a snapshot again, Badugash, Ashukul Islam. This is in Malay, unfortunately, because the students email me in Malay. So unfortunately, after several years in university, students still forgot to have subjects in their email. Basically, to summarize, these students basically were caught cheating because I have several set of questions, and the answer that he gave or she gave was not the same or what was expected from the set. So of course, when I check the answers with another set, it was too obvious. He copied and pasted from another set. So I give this student 0. Okay, so he emailed me. During the discussion, he said no, he did it by himself. He did not copy and paste or from friends. Okay, this blah blah blah. Okay, but then he emailed me. He said jawapan ini saja. Basically, he said this is the only questions where he copy and paste the solution or the answers, but not for the rest of the test. So I replied. Basically, during discussion, he said he did not cheated. He did not look at or discuss at all with friends. So obviously, he's lying. So I decided to give him 0 for that question. So that question has question 1, for example, 1A, B, C, and D. So he was caught cheating for the last question. I think E, for example. So instead of just E get 0, I give the whole question 1 as 0. Okay, I can give 0 for the whole test, but I'm not that cruel. So I give 0 for that question 1. Okay, so the implication is during the second test, he emailed me again. He said he thought he wasn't doing too well, so he basically what should the word that I use? He not requested, but he begged so that I give him the mark for the test question that he got 0, that I gave 0. Okay, so that because he think he did poorly for the second test, so that he wants marks for the test for the first test. Okay, so this is the implication. Of course, some students got away with it because I'm a human, I cannot detect everything. But once caught, I will make sure I will penalize student. This is basically my principle. And now you are in 4th year, so I will be more stricter with a 4th year student so that you will learn something. Okay, I hope I make myself clear. Okay, as for the attendance, students are expected to be present for every meeting, of course. Okay, only the instructor can excuse students. I think this is quite standard. If you cannot attend the session for whatever reason, students should inform the instructor. If you got any emergency, you need to inform the instructor or the RPS, and all other things. But the thing is, because we are doing online class, and the attendance, which I will explain later, is basically just online. So it's up to you. If you think you don't want to attend the lectures, as long as you watch the video, you fill up the attendance quiz, you answer the questions given correctly, hopefully, you're good to go. But hopefully you understand the reason why we have synchronous and also asynchronous session is so that students can ask questions during the synchronous session. Okay. But if you think just by logging in and then you can be away from from your computer, do whatever that you want. By all means, you know my style. I think most of you guys have been to my class. If you want to learn, I'm all yours. Okay, I will be more than helpful, hopefully, to you guys. But if you do not want to learn, then it's your choice. All right. So important dates for our course is highlighted over here. I think all of you guys are aware of the of the schedule. We have 5 weeks of lecture before our midterm break, which is slightly earlier this semester because of the Eid Mubarak. And then we have the remaining lectures, 9 weeks, okay, before we have the study week over here. All right. Okay. I think again this is some notes for me regarding short semester and also additional semester. I think the matters regarding this can be discussed with your respective RPS. Okay. Checklist. Okay, tentative course planning. I think let's take a 2-minute breaks. Then we'll continue. If, in the meantime, if you've got any questions, please do ask. Thank you. Okay, so this is the tentative for the semester. The timetable, and we all agree, hopefully, when on Wednesday during the month of Ramadan, we will start at 3, and hopefully we'll finish before 5. And I will try to make it shorter because I think everyone has their own commitment. The remaining durations that I cannot finish during the synchronous session will be brought forward during the asynchronous sessions. Okay. All right. So the medium of communications will be in terms of Google Classroom. I know that I've created the CFD WhatsApp group, but all of you should be aware by now in terms of my preference. I do not use WhatsApp with the class. So everything will be based on my announcements or your questions in the Google Classroom. Hopefully, if you got any questions regarding the assessment or the class in general, please post your questions in the Google Classroom. Because if you just email me, then not everyone can understand or know the question or the issues. But if you're more comfortable, then by all means, just email me. Okay, so you can post in the Google Classroom or you can email me. Okay, I'm always available for email. So I will always check my email. So if you got any questions regarding our course, drop me an email or post the questions in the Google Classroom. This is our class code in case some of you are still not joining the class. Okay. Do we need class representative for this semester? Let's say we do. So who should be the main point of communication between lecturers and student? Who will you say the best student to represent you guys? Anyone? Any volunteer? Anyone? I think so far we can just use the Google Classroom to communicate. I think should be okay. If there is a need for me to have a student representative, then I will ask again in the future. Okay. All right. Next is about okay, again about Google Classroom. You need to use your official Gmail account. I will check from time to time. If I found unofficial account being used, then I will just remove the students. The reason why, because if you're not using your Gmail's account, then you'll have problem during quiz, assignment, and exam. Okay. All right. So next, this is the old one. I think today from the latest registration record, we have 30 students. And in the Google Classroom, we have 32 students. Okay, so it's magic. We have more in the Google Classroom than in the record. So please make sure you register to the right course. Okay, so I've highlighted this before, and I want to highlight again the importance of CAA and why you should use it to your advantage. Since it is 100% coursework, and as I said, the test or the component of the test is now being distributed to another component, you should take this opportunity to score basically, to do well in this course or any other courses that is using CAA. Because instead of 60% final exam, you now only have to focus basically for test 1, 20%. So even, for example, for some reason you are not doing well in test 1, you still can focus on another assessment. Test 2, case study, lab, for example. For previous or conventional assessment, if you did not do well for exam, final exam, if you got sick the day before the test, for example, then there's nothing that you can do. Okay, so take this opportunity to basically improve your grades. Okay, all right. Contact hours, I think this is quite standard. So 70% roughly about lectures, synchronous and asynchronous. Lab is about 8 hours for 2 labs, and tutorials roughly about 3 tutorials. This is the basically the assessment method or the assessment details. I think this is quite standard for everything. Teaching and learning. Okay, so this is what I want to highlight. First of all, the lab requirement, it has to be face-to-face. Now, I understand that some of you are still not, still not on campus. So I just want to ask again in this session, anyone here that is not on campus and not planning to be on campus anytime soon, because our first lab is scheduled to be held on week 3. So can I get some response from students? Do you guys, any of you guys are still at home and do not plan on getting back on campus for the lab? Yes, no, anyone? Is it tea time now? Okay. All right, so the problem is, okay, let me highlight this for you guys. Why I want the lab sessions to be face-to-face is because first we are going to use NCs. NCs, yes, NC student is available to be downloaded from the website for free, yes. But even though for the first lab, we are not going to use a detail like something, it's not something like this is too detailed, but for the first lab, it's quite easy, yes. But you have to understand the requirement to run NCs. Okay, at least 4 cores, okay, at least your computer or CPU or laptop, 64 gig, you need at least 4 GB of graphic card and RAM. I think this is quite too much, but roughly minimum 8 GB of RAM. Because my student right now is using NSYS for their work, for the FLP work. And if your computer or if your laptop is old and you have, for example, 4 GB of RAM only, you will have difficulty to run the simulation smoothly. That's one thing. And secondly, because during the lab, how are you supposed to, for example, if you're using your an old laptop, how are you supposed to run NSYS as well as having a stream lecture like this, for example, if you want to ask for help. So I think that's the reason why I'm asking students to come back to campus for the lab. Okay, so the requirements over here is laptop PC is a must if you are at home. If you can't come back, for example, if some of you guys are abroad, for example, and then you have to download and check first whether the software is compatible with your PC or computer. And if your computer or PC cannot support the software, I think you need to use the facilities, which is you need to come back. Okay, can I get response or comments from students? No comments? Okay. So Ijmal, for example, I think, okay, aside from Ijmal, anyone else is planning to use laptop or basically to do lab at home? Anyone else can just reply to the chat box. Because my concern is you will have difficulties to run the software. That's one thing. Secondly, during the lab, how am I supposed to help you? Because I'll be at the lab with the PLV. Then how can I help you while basically doing two works at one time? Okay, Badugash, very good. Ashikul? Ashikul, I think is the way. It's not. Okay. I can run the software at home. Okay, so I think let's put it this way. I'm being flexible. I give the options here. If you want to run the software at home, then if you do not plan to come back, then that's okay for whatever reason. When the time comes for the lab, we'll try to discuss how we can cater to those at home. How can you ask questions? Basically, maybe you need to run or do the lab earlier and then use a specific session to ask questions. I think I'm quite okay for those who wants to stay or those who are at home and have the capability to run the software. But the rest, if you are on campus or if you don't have the right facility or the right PC or laptop, please come back to campus so that you can use our computer lab. Okay, all right. So next, where to find all the course material? Again, in Google Classroom, everything is in there. As you can pretty much look in the Google Classroom right now, I have uploaded quite a few materials. For example, the tutorials question. Students usually ask what type of questions will be asked in the test or to be covered during the semester. So please have a look at the tutorial questions. There are 3 sets tutorials that I've uploaded: FDM, PDE, and CFD. That 3 documents should cover or should give you an idea of what will be covered for the rest of the semester and what to be expected for the assessment. Okay, but please keep in mind, students usually confused. They say whatever questions asked in the tutorial or given in the tutorial will be the same that will be asked in the test. Not for this case. Okay, please understand the questions are given to help you basically prepare for the test or to help you basically understand the concept that was learned, not to be exactly the same that will be asked in the test. Okay, so I've posted all 3 tutorials so that you can have a look and get some idea of the questions, the type of questions or the structure of it. Okay, next, okay, how to do well. This is basically just my points. You have to prepare well before and after the lectures. please do not just log in to the lectures and then just leave to do anything else. I encourage you guys to ask questions during the lecture so that you can get something. It's not the same as watching YouTube or watching the video afterwards during the asynchronous session. You should attend the lecture and ask and understand hopefully during the lectures, okay, and prepare beforehand. And please do not memorize, because I think this happened a lot. Thermo 1, Thermo 2. You have to understand the concept and not memorize the concept, okay? And then, of course, always give more effort in your assessment. For example, when submitting a lab, please understand that the weightage now is heavier or is more compared to previous semester. For example, case study, 20% is the same as the test. So meaning that your effort should be basically more than what is a normal assignment is, okay? You have to attend all the lectures. Attend here means online session, or you can watch. It's not can watch, you have to watch all the lectures to know what is being covered. Ask questions, of course. You have to study smart as well as study hard. You have to organize your time, practice, meaning that for the CFD tools, you need to practice, okay? Just by following the given tutorial or the given guides for the lab is not enough. You have to practice, and you have to basically put your effort in terms of attitude lah, okay? So how not to do well, I think this is pretty straightforward. If you use illegal punya means or copy and paste assignment and everything else. And basically my favorite quote, basically the definition of insanity. If you keep on doing the same thing but you expect a different result, that is insane or crazy in the short term. Okay, so that's from Albert Einstein. Maybe he did not say this, but somehow they attributed it to him. Okay, so for the lab plan, there will be 2 labs. The first one is internal flow, which is quite straightforward. For the second lab, is about flow analysis around an object. So this lab will be based on NC software. So the first lab is quite straightforward, as I said. For the second lab is quite, it's not challenging, but it's definitely more challenging from the first lab. The first one is just to get used, to give you some feel of CFD. We are going to use CFD Fluent. The second lab is more on basically, instead of holding your hands, I will now give you the steering wheel. You have to drive the car. So basically, it's more independent learning. And the case study basically is a continuation of the second lab. Basically, again, for the case study, I have uploaded the question so that you can, for example, over here, I've uploaded this. Please have a look. If you prepare earlier, you know what is to be expected, then you'll get the 20%. Remember, 20% of your grade is on the case study. So the case study is a continuation of lab 2. Basically, you need to find some materials online regarding CFD, and you have to make a comparison study. Okay, I will explain in due course, but roughly, just to let you know, it's a continuation from lab 3. So it's a CFD, lab 2. So you need to use CFD to do a comparison study. Okay, so you can download NC's student for free. All right, so I posted again the case study. Please have a look. Tips. My tips is quite simple. Have a look at the tutorial questions. I have uploaded the third one, which is the FDM. So please have a look. There are 3 sets. All right. So my warning, it's not warning. My advice to you. For example, this one student said, I guarantee our test questions will be exactly like the tutorial question. This is what happens every semester. The answer is no. Okay. Our test question will not be exactly the same. The structure, yes. The fundamental, yes. But it will not be exactly the same. All right. Hopefully you understand that. And then another question from Sue. Is there any open references that we are able to follow to test the compatibility of our devices? Not this. Basically, from the NC's website. If you just search NC's requirements, you'll get the first website that I showed just now. The first link. Basically, it just mentioned the general requirement. But from my experience and from my students' experience, they are doing that. They are using the ANSYS for the FYP work. At least you need to have 8 GB of RAM, 5 GB of storage to install, and of course SSD. If you are still using HDD, then of course the performance will be impacted. And for example, if your laptop is old, definitely it will be impacted as well. Okay, because one spec is of computer spec, it varies, okay, from one computer to another. So I cannot say your computer will run okay. No. Okay, so you have to download the software and just try one or two simple exercises. Try to open, for example. If opening the software takes 1 hour, for example, then you know you have problem. Okay, the software is too heavy for your laptop. Okay. Okay. So for the attendance, it will be in terms of quiz. It will be there will be there will be 2 attendance surveys or attendance quizzes that you need to take. Well, I say here quiz, it's not quiz lah. Basically, you need to answer certain question to make sure you attended the lectures or that you have watched the video. Okay, so um, that's the only way that I can keep track whether students have attended or not the lecture. Okay, so it will be posted in our Google Classroom. Okay, so must be using student Gmail account. I think this is pretty straightforward. Worth noting, this is again, I repeat from previous semesters. What we want to know is actually a lot, but what can be covered in the lectures is just a little bit. Okay, because the depth of the ocean, the iceberg, for example, is unknown. It's too huge. Okay, so that's why I give you several links that can hopefully can help you get some additional knowledge to help you get through this course. Okay, I think this is not relevant. Okay, so how well do you remember your previous courses? For example, the PDE integration, fixed cost, all that will not be covered. So I hope I make myself clear. I will not cover the details. How can you integrate something, cos to cosine, for example? What is the integration of sine, tangential, for example, tangent? What do you get if you derive or if you integrate that? That will not be covered because that was from your calculus course. We'll go straight away, okay, into the details of the derivation. Okay. Um, house rule, I think this is okay. If you want to get in touch, please email me. I don't think people use portal anymore to ask questions. Attendance, I think this is not relevant to online class. Plagiarism, again, I highlighted the plagiarism. Handwriting, if you answers or you submitted your test or your assessment, please write nicely lah, so that it's readable. Okay, I think this is pretty straightforward. How to your responsibility, how to do well. You will be responsible for your own success. Okay. Okay. Before we end, right now, I think it is quite important for me to highlight one concept being brought by the UN, United Nations, which is called Sustainable Development Goal. They I think how many sustainable? I think they call it SDG. There are 17 goals set by the UN and is being adopted by the nations across across the continent. Basically, what is SDG? So SDG is basically an initiative by the UN. So a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people can enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. So in our case, out of these 17 goals or targets, I think what is the most relevant for us is in terms of number 7, which is affordable clean energy. It relates to our course technical knowledge so that we can design something, for example, that can give clean energy. And also climate. Of course, when we are talking about climate change, we cannot run from clean energy. Okay, so basically SDG is a collective effort of all nations because we understand the severity of the situation. Climate change is real, even though some people keep on saying climate change is not climate change is how should I say? It's not real. Some people say that, but I just want to emphasize it is real. So that's why we have to play our part. So how does this relate to Malaysia or to us as a student or as a university? Malaysia itself has adopted and came up with a plan. They call it the Sustainable Development Goals Voluntary National Review 2017. This is available from this website. You can download this. This basically, it shows the summary of what has been done by Malaysia for our part, how to contribute to the 17 goals set by the UN. Okay. All right, your first task, basically, it's quite simple. What you need to do is go through the links that was given, okay, here, and in the form of mini assignment, basically, you need to create a one-page summary using infographic methods on what you have read over here. Okay. I think I'm going to explain this in the next session, which is asynchronous, because it's very, very short. This is a mini assignment, meaning that it might be graded or it might help towards your grade at the end of the semester. Okay. So what is infographic? I've highlighted over here. I do not like students who write essay answers or too much sentences, because I think it's difficult to read and difficult to understand. So please make it more interesting, because as an engineer, if you are good, but if you cannot convey your idea to other people, so I think it's no use. Okay, so some samples by my students I will cover a bit later. Okay, I think that's the end of our first session. Any questions from students? Anyone?
Sir.
Yes.
So regarding the attendance, there is a section for asynchronous and synchronous. So do we need to submit attendance or just once?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so basically, if you have a look later for the attendance that I think I have posted the attendance, or maybe not yet. Just 1 second. Attendance. Yes, I posted the attendance. If you look at your attendance, they are posted on the Google Classroom. Basically, for the first one, I just asked students basically to summarize what you have learned or what was covered during the lecture. So similarly, it will be the same question will be asked for the asynchronous. What have you learned from the asynchronous session? So it's more of a summary. So when I read the response, I will know whether you have read or you have watched the video or you have attended the session or not. It's more of a summary. And from time to time, I may ask questions of the topics covered in that particular lectures. Hopefully that answers your question, Tema. Okay, anyone else?
Yeah.
So it's 6:15. Anyone? All right. If there is no other questions, thank you everyone for attending this session. So the next session is asynchronous, which is on, is it tomorrow? It's tomorrow, isn't it? I think it's tomorrow. So for the asynchronous session, guys, of course, I will try my best to post the materials by the assigned session or the date. But if not, it will be ready before the end of the week, and I will give ample time for you to give response for the attendance quiz. So usually I will ask students to fill up the attendance quiz before Monday morning, so that you have ample time to watch the video and answer or give the feedback on the quiz. Okay. All right. So I think that's all for today. Thank you guys for your time. I'll see you guys in the next session. Okay. Assalamualaikum. Very good evening.